Fast forward, onya yeni komo e wo channel so na me de wo ewura eye court na eye Ablakwa Okudzeto Ablakwa na me no ka say woni eye Reverend Kusi Boateng the case ekopie mo court no court akasa then sembe sa na me no ka say court eka efa ho na o kire say nsem a Kusi Boateng ede beda court efa eye Okudzeto Ablakwa ho court abo asem no atuagu a onua yagimra yedi bi exum na sei na eye Ghana web adaroma what eye flyer ne ba bonten so a yensu esu mu a yedi bi exum so why court of appeal dismissed Kusi Boateng's case against Ablakwa na ubo ewura eye atakoni mu a was an appeal by Reverend Victor Kusi Boateng against North Tongu MP Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa has been thrown out by the Court of Appeal in an unanimous decision delivered on Thursday, March 26, 2026. A three-member panel led by Justice Anthony Opon said it was unable to clearly determine who the plaintiff was after two different identities were presented before the court. The judges describe it as a critical flaw that undermined the court, the case from the outset. And so far, na Okudzeto Ablakwa etimi awini big against Reverend Kusi Boateng enya asem koto akra na at this point in time yemo nra Kevin Taylor so abra ono so ajembre na hit hard on Afenyo Markins.
Make statement we no Afenyo Markin adia Jomahama be in UN ya around the world they are applauding him and around Africa. We are sure Sanke Kufuor ne be sadi we are and Afenyo Markin be in parliament be na no aka we konka. It's politics to him. He doesn't care. Jimmy. That is where we are. Sanke Kufuor this amosh we ban anka countries 123 G2 say Bruni edibibini bone or Africa. We are sure Sanke Afenyo Markin be in parliament to make a statement way. No, never. He would have written a speech, read it in parliament, go out to go do press conference to prove to Ghana for say Kufuor is the most intelligent person. But why do you think that today an African wants to find a way and run down what we have all achieved? It is because of politics. These people who lead the NPP, they don't see anything. They see everybody as a fool. Everything is about politics. Eh? These are some of the things, Abia, you don't understand what we are talking about. This slave trade, these are some of the things that we as Africans, these are some of the things that we lost as a people. Loss of population. We are talking about especially young and then strong people. That time over 100 years ago, we lost all of them. That time, no, na abrofuna omobe fire kono, na omoma any omana no ma omo strong. Omo build omo krono. They were there. They were living. Millions of Africans were captured and taken away. Sa brodi na oba be capture African now than a coin. Na ne ma omo strong. Ne nana no omo strong. But unim do obefa millions of Africans are not only strong, to build the continent. It took them away, put them in dungeons, pushed them in boats. They were under boat for sometimes a year, 6 months. They never saw light. In those big boats, in Suane, when they take a shit, they were in there, down there in the boat. They were humans like you and me. Na abrofo tesoro no monsa whiskey. Na Now, hundreds and hundreds of people were pushed into a small space. Omo Johnson no mudem, omo Jomona no mudem. Ya to eduane mo se moa. Na abrofo na omo te sa ship nim no. Omo yirenom ene omo mbanom were in school. They were at home. And these people, you and I, our ancestors are Afenyo Markin say, omo yan kwasiafo no, they were under a boat. White people were sleeping up there. Say boat na se insu ekom na epie ni nyina, they lived down there like animals. Strong, able men and women. Yɛde wogyina nsuo so bɛyɛ 6 months, ebi tumi tena nsuo so 1 year. Yɛbie ship ase ne ato aduane guo no mu didi sɛ mmoa. Obu wɔ hɔ a yɛchain to a dead person. 6 months na nipa na wewu no ɔne ne da chain mu ɛda boat ase. You think this is a joke? This is not a joke. This is pain in the hearts of an African. A young man, a young woman will be dead next to another man or woman, chained to him. Where he cannot do anything. They stay under that boat for months. Until we reach where we are going, the dead will not be taken out of that chain. So somewhere 30 no more, those down there will be chained to the dead and they'll be there with them. You think this is a joke for you to stand in parliament? And you want it because of politics. This is not a joke, my friend. We are talking about those taken were mostly young, healthy men and women. The most productive part of society. They raped us, they stripped us of our young age. The people who were going to build the continent, they were taken away. Only the old who were about to die were left behind. You think this is a joke? Do you think this is a joke? And our history I want to ask you, and I am printing it in your face. May mount a realistic picture of what people like you went through because of their color and their location. We are talking about this immediately weakened communities, farms, and local economies. Majority of the small economies that these our forefathers were trying to build, the same way these Americans and British started building their colonies slowly, taking some from the Red Indians and all that, the way they started living in tents, small, that is what we were building. But these people came to strip us of our dignity. They left the old that could not take care of themselves. So economies, farms were all destroyed. And that is how you are not able to build. You are not able to know where you are. You get lost in your own land. We are talking about destruction of families and communities. Obiawo 3 months. Ebada naso ni ati akwara no. Ni ede ne kwa kwahye boat mu. Yadana kwahye Cape Coast Castle for a year, 6 months. Oni obia onim ne da. No mo sha danger mu. Omo junsogu omo. Omo jom na go mo. If you don't say moi, they are there. Yate de ba free ne nsam. Obi wa onyem. Onimu po so onyem. Ebi onyem 1 month. Ni abeton no. Ship mu. Now was starting a detective on him. You know what people went through? Do you think this is a joke? The raw pictures and I make no. Along the way, some people got blind. Imagine Omo when you could not do anything, and somebody along the way getting blind. A man and mama fremu, women were having their menses in this situation with men in a boat together. You think it's a joke? We are talking about a continent that was depleted because of some people's action. And they catch them say, your forefathers, not you, your forefathers' actions has hurt the soul of Africa. Just admit to that. Now, Bronia Jatum Sampa, a member of Ghana's parliament, gets up on his feet and start to tell us shit, all because of politics. Entire villages were sometimes destroyed or abandoned. That is what I was talking about. Our base, our umbilical cord was cut off. A whole continent. It is not just Ghana. It is not just Benin. A whole continent. And Ghana alone, you know where slave trade happened. How our country was turned into basically a port of trading, a platform of trading. And you stand in parliament and wear a suit That you call yourself Semi Ghanaian ba. Every Ghanaian should respect me. And you spit in our faces after your marking because you're Jimmy. Social structure and traditional ways of life started breaking down early. We started losing our culture because the people who were going to listen to the old people to continue the history were all taken away. So the culture died. Imagine the young people, 17, 18, 19, who were going to learn from our forefathers how to farm, how to keep food, how to build a nation, how to build a community, how to protect themselves. Those people were taken away. So who was going to protect the culture? The culture of the American, the European, was protected by their children. That is why they've been able to build it till this point. But there was nobody back home to protect that culture, to protect that tradition. So at the point, we lost it. We did not know who we were. So you see an African, he wants to speak like an American. He wants to speak like a British. He wants an English school. We are talking about the effects of this transatlantic slave trade on the continent of Africa. Afenyomakin is a fool. Economic distortion. Instead of developing industries or trade in goods, many areas focused on capturing and selling people. So at that point, now people were into farming, yam farming, cassava farming. People were starting to build small colonies. People were starting to build small economies. It got to a point, people felt that slave trade paid more. So indirectly, people were enticed to go into it. Do you understand? And most of the people who went to it did not even know what their fellow brothers and sisters were going to go through. They thought that these people were being just taken away. But we are talking about the journey. That journey of no return. That journey that got a lot of people turning into ghosts on seas. People were thrown overboard because at the point they couldn't do anything with them. So thousands and thousands of people along the way on the journey on the sea, they find slaves and throw them overboard. People, their souls were lost on sea. If asamine and sebio ahonhum enam wiasia, they are still lingering on the ocean. They don't know where to go. They are stranded. And hundreds of years, because we are samaya, you don't grow. So if you were 23 and you were a ghost on the ocean, thrown into the ocean, you will be lingering on the ocean for years and years. That is the pain that we are talking about. And then a member of parliament of Ghana stands in parliament and tells us we should take the blame. And that whatever has happened in the UN, he sees nothing extraordinary about it. But Danke Yekufo in the Kanya and Kafenyomakin will applaud him. This is a stupid hypocrite. This is a stupid fool with no principle in life. We are talking about this prevented early economic growth and innovation. Africa became dependent on European traders for goods. That is where the economic dependency started. Because the young people who were supposed to work, to build, to protect, to secure were taken away. Now, those who were left behind were forced to rely on the foreign trader to survive. Because if I'm living in a home with 3, 4, 5 young people, and I have 2 old women, 2 old men, and then you take all these young people away, and it's left with 2 old women, 2 blind men, how are they going to live? What they have to do is to resort to the same slave master who will come back and tell them, I want to help you. Because you, the old woman, you cannot farm. You, the old man, you cannot farm. You need to live. You need to eat. So now we have to depend on the slave master. Because majority of the strong people, the women and men, they have taken them, killed some on the ocean, sold some to be working on plantations, wasted their lives. So this continent was left bare. So the people who were left, those who were very young and those who were very old, who could not do those things, had to rely on the European and those people who call themselves the slave masters. So they had no option than to say, you can build your castle. When you bring wheat, give us some to eat. Now, when somebody controls food, he controls the mouth of a human being. When somebody controls food, he controls the soul of man. And that is how the dependency started. Boateng is a crazy hypocrite. We are talking about introduction of foreign goods and dependency. Europeans traded items like alcohol, guns, and textiles. Now they saw Africa as very needy, very dependent. So they started flooding our system with what they believe will make us believe in them. So they started bringing guns. We took the guns. We wanted to protect our territories. Then we started to kill each other. Now we have guns. We know guns can kill. Our brother who used to be our brother now is an enemy, because now I've been told that because of what is happening, I need to protect my territory. So my brother becomes my enemy. Alcohol, hard liquor was brought. Men lost their mind. They did things that they did not even believe in. We are talking about things that changed Africa. 6, introduction of foreign goods. And I've told you, over time, African societies became dependent on goods. Local industries like cloth making or metal works declined. Now, for those who were blacksmiths and all that, they basically decided not to get involved in that again. So the growth of the continent started to retrogress. We started getting retarded. Everything started slowing down. Now that is when the slave master entered and took advantage of the system, because there was no growth. The young people to grow it have been taken away. Now, the rest are supposed to be dependent on that same slave master. And he looked at it and said, in my country, I have snow, I have this bad weather. Here, if I put one corn on the ground, it can grow. So they then turn Africa into an industrial hub that will feed the West. So they come to Africa, they get wheat. They come to Africa, they get things that on their land they can never grow. So they come, they turn Africa into a wholesale. They did whatever they wanted to do. They took the gold they wanted, the silver they wanted, the bauxite they wanted, the food that they could not grow on their land. They basically took it with them. Because when you control food, you control the soul of man. So the dependency has been there. And somebody will ask, why are we still dependent on them today? That is one thing that you need to understand. You were born as a human being. And when you were born as a human being, your father told you were a Catholic. So your father started calling you Stephen, Kwame, Amwako. From the day you were born, you were told that there is a God. And that God tells you that do this, do that, and do that. Your father learned that from somebody who made him believe in that. And I'm trying to tell you about how psychologically, if something starts and at a point it does not stop, it will be difficult to stop it. So you grow up believing that there's God who is sitting on a throne somewhere, and that you have to do this and that to make sure you please that God, so that you can go to that God. In fact, whatever you possess does not belong to you. It's basically material stuff. Because at the end of the day, you are going to go to that God. So now, what happens is you come and your father tells you that all the things that you possess that will make your life easy and not to make you dependent are things of the world, and that you are not supposed to depend on them. But we depend on a God who at the end of the day, you have not witnessed, seen, don't know where he lives. And that is the only way you will be successful. So religion was introduced. The African mentality was distorted. And then we could not believe in ourselves again. So if you say, why haven't we stopped the dependency? It is not just depending on the foreigner. It is about the philosophy. It is about the I want this word. indoctrination. It's psychological. Because today, we have some people, if they don't even go to a certain kind of school or speak in a certain kind of way, they feel that they have basically failed in life. That is the most dangerous part. That is what the white man left. When we became aware of our surroundings and said the white man should live, the slave master should live, the slave master had already implanted that in Africa. And our mistake, our biggest challenge was that we could not get people to, at the point, say that this ends here. We need to be who we are. We were never able to overcome that. And that indoctrination has ate into our psychological reasoning. We cannot just get away from it easily. So even today, when you build kente in Ghana and you bring a fabric from Cuba, African will stand in parliament and say, this guy is wearing expensive clothes because they are made in Cuba. But the kente, he just sees it as kente. That is where we are. We are dependent on foes, goods that have been worn, clothes that have been worn by somebody, than to even clothes that are manufactured from Ghana, which nobody has worn before. We will still believe in the foes because that is how the indoctrination is. And those are very difficult things to overcome. Those are very difficult things to overcome. These are psychological things that has eaten through generations and generations till now. So let's not make this thing look like a joke. What John Mahama has done, it's a big step. It is a big step. And we should not underestimate it. We should not allow some people to make it look like it's just a joke. It is not. Why do you think the Americans and the British decided to stay away from it? They know the psychological implications, what it is going to tell the young African. They know that when they admit to it, psychologically, the young African will now understand why they need to be independent, why they need to start building the new Africa. That is why the Americans and the British stayed away from the vote. Because the moment you show weakness, the moment you admit, then you are making the African more aware. And the new generation will start asking questions and now be posing questions to them. So the best thing to do is to say, I will not speak until my lawyer is around. And that is what they did at the UN. They stayed away strategically because they didn't want the young African to understand that they have admitted that their forefathers hurt us and that they do not have the rights that they have today to suppress the African directly or indirectly. So they basically sat down and said, no, don't give them that. Do not give them that. Because the moment you give them that, you give them power. Say abrofunye bibia omni problem with anything. Edene dema brunikache bibi say ampa bibi says here history recorded it. We are sorry. Why is it so difficult for the British to do? Why is it so difficult for the American to do? But psychologically, they don't want their children to also come and meet this history that they admitted at the point that they abused people. They don't want it. They want the history to stay that way, that they are the alpha male. They are the superior ones. That is why they stayed away.
We and some who wrote him course or channel so I'm not so Jim Reda and so body and they don't be a domain.